For 30 years, the suspect, dubbed the I-65 Killer, was a mystery. But today, police identified the man they say was behind brutal murders in Kentucky and Indiana. As WDRB's Dalton Godby explains, he had a lengthy criminal record before this even happened. Dalton?
The long timeline of criminal history of Harry Edward Greenwell. Law enforcement ID'd him as this I-65 killer. His behavior started even before that. This timeline shows he was arrested for armed robbery and for sodomy here in Louisville before all of this. And the crime didn't stop.
And in our case, we'll never know what the killer was thinking. We'll never learn any of the whys of his actions. And that's just where we sit today.
Kim Gilbert Wright is reliving her mother's death once again more than 3 decades after the fact. Her mom, Jean Gilbert, was one of the 3 women murdered in hotels by the elusive I-65 killer. He was never caught until DNA evidence revealed him here.
The match was 99.9999% positive. It is this scientific breakthrough that ultimately led to the identification of the I-65 killer, Harry Edward Greenwell.
Indiana State Police says Greenwell's most famous killings took place between 1987 and 1990. The first came at the Super 8 motel just off the interstate in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Greenwell attacked the desk clerk, Vicki Heath, sexually assaulted her, robbed her, and shot her in the head twice. 2 years later, on the same day in 1989, police say Greenwell struck again in Merrillville and Remington, Indiana, where he murdered Peggy Gill and Jean Gilbert. A year later, in Columbus, Indiana, an unnamed victim was sexually assaulted by Greenwell and left for dead, but lived.
But I hope that today might bring a little bit of solace to you, to know that the animal that did this is no longer on this earth.
Indiana State Police, the FBI, and several other police agencies worked together to connect the dots in all of these cases. A breakthrough in DNA technology in 2019 finally identified Greenwell as the man responsible. However, he died of cancer in 2013.
The message is, you might be able to hide for a while, but we're going to find you, even if you're not here.
E-Town police have been working the case since 1987. The detective on the case now says former detectives made this possible by collecting and preserving DNA from the scene.
The detectives back then really were forward-thinking, I would almost say ahead of their time, with the type of things that they collected that ended up being one of the things that solved this case, such as DNA.
More than 30 years later, families from Elizabethtown and beyond can finally say, case closed.
That we're all now able to share in the healing process, knowing the long-known attacker has now been brought out of the dark and into the light.
Police say there are similar cases from around that time period that may be connected. They aren't denying those rumors and say they're still investigating some other claims. Dalton Godby, WDRB News.